guest is Lynn Keith, who is the director of our General Service Department. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning, Bob.
And I'm sure that you have some good information for us.
Well, I do have some updates. As we say all the time, we can't communicate too much, right?
That's the truth.
So it continues to be a busy time in the department. It's quite a team effort, but some of the things that residents would like to know about. Building insulation. So this has been a project that's been going on since November, and we are nearly done with Neighborhood 3. So we started in Crestwood Court, completed there, completed Maple Creek and Canterbury Square, and this week they will be finishing up their work in Oak Hill. And so we appears like the weather will cooperate and they'll get all that work done, and then they will be moving on to Neighborhood 2. So I know residents comment if they're outside, they keep an eye on the folks that are up on the roof. We also have teams who are working inside as well. So it is weather dependent. Even when it's a little sunny sometimes, it gets a little windy, but that work is progressing quite well. And we believe that winter is behind us, so we're pleased.
A little question. Are we, Green Spring, ever visited by OSHA?
We can be. We are subject to OSHA inspections.
I was thinking of the guys up on the
Oh,
roof.
Absolutely. They are governed by, so part of the process that we adhere to as a part of contracting, it's reviewed by risk and legal, and it incorporates all of the responsibilities that they carry to make sure that from their insurance, their practices, and what we observe. And we do keep an eye as well, but they are governed.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay. Safety is we always say it's everyone's job, and we take that quite seriously. We want to make sure everyone is safe. So another area where we'll be doing work is the retaining wall across from Parkview. So when you come from the gatehouse and you come to that first stop sign and you either go straight towards the chapel or turn left. If you turn left, there's a retaining wall down in that ravine that runs all along there towards the pond. And that wall we have shored up in the last couple of years, but it does need some repair work. So the majority of the work you won't see because they'll be, working down below, but there may be some traffic.
The wall been slipping, or?
Over time, we have all of those areas.
Or is this preventive maintenance?
It is preventive at this point, but it showed that it was in need of work. We have all of those assessed on an annual basis to look for any movement and where we may need to do some work. So there may be some flaggers out there once we start within the next week or two. So we also have some work to do on the resident parking decks, and that's the lot closest to the chapel, which are N and P, and then the other parking deck, which is K, L, and M. And that work's going to be occurring primarily second and third quarter. Once we have a little bit more information about timing and impact, we'll be communicating that. But I say that because folks have commented on the fact there are water penetrations where they shouldn't be. It affects the electricity and lights that go on and off, and so we're quite aware. We had hoped to have that work done last fall, but it was more extensive than we anticipated. So that work is coming up. One of the projects that's almost completed, and I know residents will be excited about it, it's the relocation of the art wall. It has been in town center near the exit to the courtyard between the bank and the store, and it has been relocated to Hunter's Crossing lobby. And there's a little bit of work that remains on the fasteners and the process, but Ann Sampson has been working closely with project management to get that up and operational. So as they said yesterday at coffee with the exec team, the residents need to get busy to generate some art to go there.
When I enter Hunter's Crossing through the sliding doors.
It will be on your left.
On my left?
Yes, across from the front desk. There used to be a curio cabinet there, and that has been relocated to allow for the art to be displayed there.
So that wall will be devoted strictly to art?
To resident art, yes.
Resident art.
Yes, and you can see it's got a bit of a frame that goes along with the rest of the decor there, and allows quite a bit of flexibility for how art can be displayed, different heights and sizes.
I get the idea that I think more people will see the artwork over Hunters than they did over
Absolutely. It's a beautiful location, very visible, and a lot of people certainly be able to enjoy it.
Wonderful.
Yes. So something not quite as glamorous, but certainly will be appreciated by some. We are working to refresh all of the resident laundry rooms. And so these are the areas in the resident buildings where perhaps you go to wash a large load or to utilize if you are in one of our smaller apartments that don't have washer and dryer. So those areas are being refreshed. And we've been replacing equipment as necessary, but this is actually to make them look more attractive. And so there will be new flooring and paint and
they're going to paint too?
Yes, a lot of sprucing up. So we hope that folks think it's as attractive. There's been quite a bit of feedback shared with the team about what they'd like to see.
Is there a plan for a little TV in there?
Well,
No.
I don't think so, but you can certainly bring your iPad along. Wi-Fi is available, so you can entertain yourself perhaps during the spin cycle. So one of the other things that we've heard about is signage. When is Neighborhood 2 going to get the signage that the rest of the community has? And that is in process. That work is going to be going to the vendor for fabrication very soon. That's been it seems like it wouldn't be a very lengthy process, but there's a lot of attention given to making sure that we have all of the correct information, all of the right locations, and so that will be progressing in the second quarter.
Plus the vendor is also busy too. And
Of course, everybody's busy.
Sure.
And we all want it tomorrow.
Right.
So want to give a shout out and a thank you to many resident volunteers who have been helping us rescan and address resident concerns with televisions. So for quite some time we have been utilizing both AEI TVs system as well as DirecTV.
It was kind of a dual thing there.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so when we got to that point and made that adjustment, there was still a little bit of confusion. And so we visited both staff and resident volunteers, over 300 residents, to identify issues.
Oh, really?
And so some of the issues were a simple rescan. And some were folks that, for one reason or another, never responded to actually get direct television. And we worked with those folks to make sure that they were finally connected. And then we also addressed, there were a few install issues, and some folks maybe needed a newer television. But we continue to have a few folks, so I would encourage residents, if you have a question, there's information on the Village Bridge of how to toggle between what we call the Green Spring channels. That's this channel, as well as your local network channels and the much beloved WIDA UK 26.2, and then there's the DirecTV lineup.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes folks get a little confused, and so information is on the Village Bridge about how to do that. It's available at the front desks. You can contact General Services if you believe that you have an issue with your equipment, with not getting a channel. That's when you need to call Satellite Systems, the DirecTV provider. Julius, many folks know him, and that's that 877 number. So just a reminder out there, our calls have dropped off. Folks are getting the assistance that they need, and we just thank the residents for partnering to get that done. So a few other partnerships, as we work with our General Services Resident Committee, some of the things that we're working on. Yesterday at coffee with the exec team, I asked folks to take a look down at the floors, and sometimes we don't notice those, but one of the things that our housekeeping team has been working on is floor care. Certainly the carpeted surfaces, but sometimes it's easier to notice the shine when you look at the elevator flooring, and take a look at that. We want to continue to communicate what's the frequency of cleaning, how's that done, how often are they there, what do they do to it, how do we maintain that. One of the areas that we're excited about is the floors in the elevators at Garden Ridge. So those have been changed out. They're beautiful, and we're now monitoring to see how they wear. We did a lot of research to see how those would hold up, and we believe if we believe we're on the right track, that these will be replicated then here in independent living in our elevators. And we know we get feedback about the flooring not looking great.
I do have a question about the elevators. Over in Town Center, I noticed that the bumpers have been installed on the sides in the elevator. And I noticed also, speaking of over here, neighborhood 2, we don't have these bumpers and the signs are all scratched up. Bottom line question, is there a plan somewhere that maybe in the future our elevator, and I can use a plural, say 2 years from now, elevators, has a bumper installed?
We are always looking at the most durable surface we can find because we know that through moves and equipment in and out, there are all kinds of things that can cause damage. So yes, that is certainly our goal, and you'll see that carried out to the best of our ability, the most durable surface that we can find.
My question to you rang another bell.
Certainly.
Can you update us at all on what's going to happen to a second elevator here in, well, not only in Village Square, but there's second elevators scheduled for other places?
Sure. So the second elevator at Village Square, Ben Cornthwaite has spoken about that a little bit to say that as we looked at the location for it, we want to make sure that it makes the most sense to locate it where it is, which originally had been right next to the existing elevator. And then that causes a little bit of a domino effect. And so we've been looking at that, and we'll finalize those plans so that install of that elevator can occur very early in 2017. There was a bit of a pause to make sure that we were headed in that right direction. I think that made good sense. So we are still on track. And for the other areas, as we get to those areas for renovation, repositioning, those additional elevators will be looked at. Yes.
Lynn, I've got the signal. We have about 1 more minute to go, and I know you may have something else.
Well, I'll add one more item. Yesterday, this was brought up at Coffee with the Exec Team, and I ran into a resident this morning and said I would share. So, Earth Day is coming up, much involvement from both resident and staff, and it was mentioned that the shredding truck would not be there. And what we wanted to clarify is that shredding of confidential documents is always available to residents. At each front desk, residents can bring material that they wish to not just put in recycling, but to put in a secure container. And we have that available behind every front desk. They just need to request that. And the resident committee felt that was that's an ongoing service, and that there wasn't the need to have the vehicle on campus for the event, as it's an ongoing service. And I think not everybody was aware of that. So if you need to get rid of an old resident directory or some other paperwork that you don't want to just recycle or put in the trash, you can bring that to the front desk and they will walk you right to the container and you put it in.
You make a very good point about shredding the directory. I recall in years gone by that we have been asked not to just throw away the directory, but to have it shredded. I did not know that your front desk had that capability. I have my own shredder.
We have a secure box. It's actually locked, so it looks like a mail slot, but it's one way in. So if you put it in, you can't get it back out, and that then is picked up, and it's a secure box. So I think we all feel like we want to make sure we don't leave that kind of information in our trash. So personally, I shred everything at home, and you have the opportunity to bring that right in and put it in the shred container.
I wish we had more time, Lynn. You've been kind of a fountain of information here. So I'm going to have to close down, but first of all, I want to come up with some announcements.